Okay, so we're live, but we need to just wait a bit because people need to join.
Okay, alright.
Okay.
We can have some speeches. So you'll see when people start joining.
Okay, it's like 4 others have just joined now. Okay, it's all kicking off now.
Excellent.
Just
Hello.
give it like 30 seconds.
Okay. Hello everyone.
Don't you know pump it up? Let's begin. Hello everyone. I'd like to say hello. I hope you're having a great Sunday. We certainly are having a pretty great Sunday. That's telling me to go off. We certainly are having a pretty great Sunday. I'm here with Dr. Dad. And Dr. Dad has agreed to do a little Q&A about Corona. You've been an NHS doctor for 23 years?
Hello everyone. Yes, indeed. I have worked in the NHS for 23 years.
Okay.
And during that time, I'm now trained, I am an orthopaedic surgeon.
What's that?
So during my regular working day, I fix broken bones and also help people who've got pain in their joints, and we do operations to make them better. So that's what I would do normally. However, the times we're living now is not normal, and obviously it's a very sad and scary time for a lot of people with this new infection, the COVID-19 and coronavirus. So we've been asked to do lots of different things and help our colleagues looking after these patients in more critical situations. So yes, we are multitasking a lot.
So this is Dr. Jenk. I've realised now that it may be a bit confusing, but we are both called Jenk. So this is Jenk Senior. Possibly I could be described as Jenk Junior, but I'm not too sure about that one yet. Okay, so you've agreed to do a Q&A about some questions people have for coronavirus.
Some questions.
We've got quite a few questions up here. So first question is, what is a virus?
Okay, so a virus is a very, very small particle that you can't even see under a microscope. So even if it's magnified hundreds of times, it's still very, very difficult to see these. And they can get into human cells or any living animal cells and cause infection. And the person that's carrying the cells will become ill with it. And how ill they are depends on what the virus is that has infected them.
Okay, perfect. Cash was asked, why is it called coronavirus?
Okay, corona is is actually Latin for crown. And on top of this particular group of viruses, on their surface, they have these little crown-shaped molecules that are sitting on their surface. And so they've called all group of these viruses coronaviruses.
But obviously, to be clarified, nothing to do with the beer company.
It's got nothing to do with beer.
Okay.
No, but the logo for the beer is a crown.
Oh,
hence
there you go.
Corona.
So what is the difference between coronavirus and COVID-19? Is there a difference between coronavirus and COVID-19?
So what everyone's understand is coronaviruses have been around for hundreds or tens of years. We've known about coronaviruses. The common flu is a type of coronavirus. However, COVID-19 is a new section, a subsection. So if you think of coronaviruses as, for example, a car, then the corona is, for example, a Ford, and the COVID-19 is a make of Ford, like the Fiesta or the Escort.
That's a great analogy, thank you very much.
I'm glad you like that. But you can't drive a COVID-19.
Thank you. What's an antibody and how do they work?
Antibodies. Okay, so antibodies are something that we produce in our body, and they are produced as a reaction to an infection. So when a virus comes into your body, the body's own defense mechanisms can't actually see it. They do a very good job of hiding these viruses. But then the body detects there's something wrong and produces these things called antibodies, which goes and finds the virus, attaches onto them, and they almost like wave at the body's defense mechanisms and attract attention. So the body can send along the army of cells that will attack it and kill it. So it's a way of finding the antibodies are a way of finding the virus and then helping the body kill it.
Angela has asked, who created the coronavirus? Or where did it come from?
Hold on. I don't know if you mean who created coronavirus or if you specifically mean COVID-19.
Let's do COVID-19.
Because, as we said, coronavirus has been around for tens of years and it's not something new. COVID-19, this specific strain of coronavirus, was first found in Wuhan, which in a food market, in fact. All coronaviruses originally come from animals, in fact. And so this specific strain happens to come from a bat. So how then it got from a bat into the human system is, it's questionable, and there are theories, and so either way, unfortunately, it has found its way into us as humans, and then the transmission of this is very, very easy because it travels in little particles, in moisture particles.
Well, there you go. How is COVID-19 different from the flu?
Okay. So both of these are corona-type viruses. The flu, you can get very mild symptoms. It gives you a bit of a sore throat. Symptoms usually come on within a day, but normally after about 3 or 4 days, once you have the influenza viral infection, within 2 or 3, 4 or 5 days, you know you've got it. And another 4 or 5 days after that, your body's usually strong enough to kill it and you get better. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 is very different. Once you get infected, you may not know you've had it or have it for up to 14 days, 2 weeks. So you could be walking around spreading the infection before you even know you've got it. And once then the infection starts giving you symptoms, which is symptoms are the word that we use to describe how you feel. In other words, sore throat, headaches. COVID-19 specifically gives you a dry cough and a temperature. By the time you show those signs and symptoms, then you could have had the infection for up to 2 weeks. Then depending on how strong your immunity is and how healthy you are, will depend on how long this lasts for and what the course of the illness will be.
Thank you very much. That was Shruti's question. So thank you very much, Shruti, for the question.
Coming through?
Honestly, I haven't seen that much of it. Okay, so how long does it take for people to show symptoms? You just answered, and that was Sarah's question.
Somebody's asking if you have it once, can you have it again?
Can you?
We're actually going to come to that a bit later, but generally speaking, once you've had it and you've recovered from it, you should have developed a specific type of antibody, and we'll talk about antibodies a bit later, but the antibody you would have developed is something called IgG antibody, and that gives you immunity and protection for many months, if not years. So in short answer to the question, once you've had it once, you shouldn't have it again. And it's almost hardly any cases in the world ever show reinfection.
Okay. So people say that the young people are mostly asymptomatic. What does that mean?
So the word asymptomatic, like as I said earlier, the word symptom is a description of what happens to you and the feeling you have, like a sore throat or a dry cough. Asymptomatic is the opposite, shows that you don't have any of these symptoms. In other words, you have the infection is active, not dormant, and you did not develop anything to show that you're infected. In other words, you haven't got a temperature or you haven't got a cough, and you then recover from it without even knowing that you had it.
Mm-hmm. So, let's talk a bit about the tests.
Yes,
the tests.
The famous test that we're all waiting for.
Okay.
Okay.
You have the test there.
Okay.
So this is like one of the homemade kits. Just tell us about how it works, about IgG and IgU.
Okay. Right. So the tests that most people are using are the home testing kits. They look like this. I'll show you what it looks like. You take a blood sample and you mix it with a special solution called a buffering solution, and it works by putting a drop of blood here, and then you have some lines on the side that tell you which antibodies your body has produced in reaction to it. If neither of the middle or bottom lines line up, that means you have not been infected with COVID-19.
Yes.
So this is just testing COVID-19. It's not a test for all coronaviruses. It's very specific. So I've had lots of friends say, oh, I've definitely got the infection. I haven't felt well. I've got a sore throat. I haven't been well. And we've done these tests on them, and they have all been negative, and they were quite surprised. But I said they shouldn't be surprised because there's loads of different coronaviruses. I think there's 52 different types. And this test is only COVID-19. So if they've had, for example, 21 or 23 or 50 or something, then this test won't show it. However, it's COVID-19 that's the one that is unfortunately killing people all around the world, and that's the one that we're most worried about, which is what this test tests for.
Can I interrupt you there? Superfan Mason Newman has just asked, how can we get tested, Dr. Jenk?
Unfortunately, these tests aren't available very easily at the moment. The government is trying to push through and get a lot more tests out there. The first people that will get tested when it is open
Doctors.
are going to be doctors working, what we call frontline workers. In other words, doctors dealing with patients with corona to see whether or not doctors are keeping themselves safe. I'm sure that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to get to see a lot more of these tests. Unfortunately, the only place that can get these tests at the moment is very specific pharmacies, but even that, it's only once a doctor sees you and refers you for it. So at the moment, when the government is not testing everyone, so sorry, have to watch the space for that.
So both of us took the test, and we were positive for IgG.
Yes, so we're sharing our medical information with you now. So we both, Jenk and I both took this test, and we looked for 2 antibodies, as I said. The one antibody is called the IgM antibody, and that antibody is the one that your body produces almost immediately after you get the infection, and then that antibody then converts itself into an IgG antibody, which is the one that gives you long-term immunity. So both Jenk and I,
we've had it
probably 6 to 8 weeks ago, and again, we didn't show any symptoms, but now we know we're protected against COVID-19.
Which is great. There you go. So we have a few more questions. We talked about the test now. There's a few more questions left. So Kana Kalani has asked, why is there no vaccine yet? And will there be a vaccine?
Well, I'm hoping there will be a vaccine. I mean, you have to understand that vaccine takes many, many years to develop. But because we're living in such unprecedented times, we've never seen anything like this before in medicine, where the entire world is infected at the same time. Yeah. So it is a uniting factor that so many scientists are now working together throughout the world. And when you have so many people working on finding a cure for something, hopefully the cure won't take many years, but instead months. So we're very excitedly waiting for some good news from these scientists, hopefully in months rather than years. But when that will happen, no one knows.
Can you get corona from Amazon deliveries?
Okay, so the theory about how long these viruses can live outside the body, i.e. on surfaces, the harder the surface, the longer it can survive. I've read anything from 36 to 72 hours. These viruses can live on surfaces. So if you touch that surface and you put your hand to your mouth or near your eyes, you will infect yourself. Only after 72 hours, the virus will die. So alternatively, you just have to clean everything using soap and water or disinfectants. So going back to Jenk's question, or who asked the question, whoever did, can you get it from Amazon deliveries? The government the health service is saying any deliveries that you get to your house, leave them untouched for 15 minutes. Then to be 100% safe, you should spray them or wipe them down with a disinfectant before you bring them into the house. That's the only way to be sure. But I know companies are now being very responsible. All the delivery guys are wearing gloves. There's a non-touch technique of delivering things where things are left at the front door without you having to have direct contact with anyone. And I know lots of companies are being very responsible, so we thank you for them. And it's these companies that are stopping people leaving their house, because we know the more people leave the house, the more this infection spreads, and it makes my job in the NHS a lot harder. So thank you everyone for staying at home and listening to government advice.
Well, there you go. Can you contract it from your pets? Sarah asked. So that's dogs, cats, goldfish, snakes,
okay,
tigers.
So we know that coronaviruses are come from animals in the first place. Now, historically, with COVID-19, even if your dog is sneezing and you're in the vicinity of the dog, you will not get it. There is no cases reported that COVID-19 has been passed from an animal to human. However, we know just because of the history of how this has gone into humans, that somehow an animal has infected a human and that human has spread it to everyone. And we believe that was because the animal was eaten. So if you don't eat your dog, I think you'll be fine.
Why does it affect elderly people more than it would affect young people?
Okay, so this is actually quite serious, and this is where this virus is really. I mean, we're laughing, but honestly, it's no laughing matter.
No.
Elderly people normally have other medical problems as well. Also, the speed of which an elderly person can produce these antibodies that we've talked about is very much reduced. And therefore, they're at much higher risk of when they get the infection, their body will not be able to fight it off as easily as a younger person or a person who is fit and well. Now, it's not that young people can't get the disease and young people won't die from it, because we do know cases where young people are starting to die from this now. But if you're healthy, you eat well, you're not overweight, you have no other medical problems, then it's highly unlikely that you'll become hospitalized because of this.
Thank you very much. Awesome. So that question was from John Cookie. And the next question from Shruti: is taking chloroquine helpful for people with virus?
Okay.
So
Now,
firstly, what's chloroquine?
Okay.
And then
Chloroquine, hydrochloroquinone, also, both of these are anti-malarials. So these are tablets that were originally given to travellers that want to travel to areas of the world that have the disease called malaria. So these tablets you take and it stops you from getting the disease. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a small trial of which there was very few people that were involved in the trial to see if taking chloroquine can be helpful. And the results from that said that, yes, it could be. Now, for those results to be reliable, you have to look back at how these experiments were conducted. Certainly in certain parts of the world, anyone that has symptoms are immediately started on chloroquine. And in fact, they add an antibiotic to that called azithromycin. And the combination of the two, some health practitioners believe that will reduce the amount of illness you'll get even if you're infected. However, these are all theories, and when they tested these out, the tests weren't done on enough people to get a truly reliable result. So in this country, that is not something that we prescribe in the NHS, and we don't advocate giving antimalarials and antibiotics for patients that are presenting with COVID-19 virus.
Perfect. Thanks so much. The next question is from Blee_Diva. Have they found out how and why some people recover and that can help? And can that help?
Well, again, we know that people recover at different rates, and it's all based on how quickly your body can cope with infection, mm-hmm. and that is, in other words, how quickly your body can produce antibodies. So there is a genetic link to that. So if genetically your body is used to producing or can produce antibodies very quickly, then you know you're going to get over it very quickly. However, if you're elderly, we know that antibodies aren't produced as fast, or if you're just not well and you have lots of other medical problems, then clearly you're going to have much more of a problem recovering from an infection of COVID-19. So we've got that understanding just by watching what happens to different people that have the same infection. So that is certainly, in answer to your question, Diva, that we are understanding more and more about this disease by watching the reaction of different types of patients.
Mm-hmm. Final question from Ratuk: what are some of the best daily practices to make sure keep yourself healthy?
The underlying most important thing is to reduce human-to-human contact. Therefore, staying at home, isolation, not meeting with your friends in the park, not running around coughing and spluttering everywhere, that is the most important thing. Certainly, if you go out, or when you have to go out to the grocery shops or to the pharmacist or to help a vulnerable person, you should certainly be wearing a mask, use gloves, and sanitize your hands regularly. Once you come home, you should take the mask and gloves off and throw them away before you come into your house, and go straight to the bathroom to wash your hands for a minimum of 20 seconds, or sing happy birthday twice while you're washing your hands. That's very important. And so as long as you follow those guidelines, that will help. Certainly the next level above that would be disinfecting anything that comes into your home from outside. Oh, look who's joined us. Here we are. Here's our little pets.
You don't have corona, do you?
And we hope they don't have corona. Anyway, so hopefully that answers, Ratu, that answers your questions about best daily practice.
That's it. Thank you very much, Dr. Dad.
You're welcome.
I just want to say a massive thank you for being just pretty awesome. And thank you to everyone who sent in the questions. Very, very much appreciated. Please, everyone, stay indoors because it makes Dad's life a bit easier. Much appreciated.
Oh, come on, man, what are you doing?
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Clearly this is a big problem, but we're all going to get over it by grouping together and fighting together. And
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you everyone.
Much love all. Kebab, Pasha, thank you very much for coming. Just at the end there. It was very nice to see you all. In a bit. Oh, end.